Imagine paying the highest local sales taxes in America, and it hits you every time you buy groceries, school supplies, or a car. You're paying more than people living in some of the wealthiest parts of the country. You're being told that money is helping fund public safety. What would you expect your cities to look like? That's a question I started with in Lancaster and Palmdale, two cities in the northernmost part of LA County, where residents now pay an 11.25% sales tax. This is the highest sales tax rate in the United States, based on California tax data and comparisons from the Tax Foundation. So the next question was simple. What are residents getting in return? To understand that, it helps to compare Lancaster and Palmdale with a few nearby cities in Los Angeles County, Burbank and Beverly Hills. All four are smaller than the city of Los Angeles itself, but the differences between them are striking. Let's start with income and population. Lancaster has about 156,000 residents with a median household income of around $81,000. Palmdale has roughly 166,000 residents and the same median income. Burbank is smaller with about 107,000 residents and a median household income that is higher, about $97,000. Beverly Hills is far smaller and significantly wealthier with about 32,000 residents and a median household income of about $130,000. Now let's look at violent crime trends. Lancaster's violent crime rate is about 7.8 per 1,000 residents. Palmdale's is about 5.3, and Beverly Hills, it's about 4.9. In Burbank, about 3.7. That means Lancaster's violent crime rate is roughly 59% higher than Beverly Hills and more than double Burbank's. And nationally, the gap is just as clear. The U.S. average is about 359 violent crimes per 100,000 people. Lancaster is closer to 800, more than double the national average. Palmdale is around 500, about 40% higher than the national average. Then look at what residents are paying in sales tax. Lancaster and Palmdale, 11.25%. Burbank, 10.5%. And Beverly Hills, even lower at 9.75%. So the picture becomes clearer. Residents in Lancaster and Palmdale are paying more at the register while earning less than residents in nearby wealthy cities. It raises questions about what these tax increases are actually accomplishing. Sales tax is one of the primary ways cities fund day-to-day operations, including infrastructure, administration, and public safety. Lancaster manages a city budget of more than $300 million annually. Palmdale's exceeds $400 million. A substantial share goes toward government operations and public safety services. On paper, the logic sounds simple. Money comes in, services get funded, safety remains a priority. But budgets alone don't show the whole picture. They don't show whether residents actually feel safer. So I looked at policing. Through a public records request with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, I obtained staffing data for both cities over time. In Lancaster, sworn personnel dropped from about 238 deputies in 2020 to about 199 today. Palmdale saw a similar decline, falling from about 197 deputies to about 178 today. So while tax rates climbed to the highest levels in the country, deputy staffing moved in the opposite direction. That's where the disconnect starts to emerge. Because if higher taxes are meant to support public safety, many residents would reasonably expect to see some measurable improvement. More staffing, lower crime, faster response times, or at least clearer outcomes. And this is where the story becomes bigger than Lancaster or Palmdale. Across America, voters are increasingly being asked to approve higher local taxes tied to public safety, infrastructure, homelessness, emergency response, and essential services. Most people reasonably assume those trade-offs will produce visible, tangible results. Safer streets, safer community areas, maybe more deputies when needed, a stronger sense that systems are working, that communities are safer. But what happens when taxes rise and the outcomes become harder for residents to clearly see? Instead, the broader pattern here looks like this. Higher taxes, lower median incomes, Palmdale and Lancaster fall below the LA County median income by some $10,000, yet they pay more in sales tax. Higher violent crime rates that, even with some recent improvement, still remain significantly above both national levels and nearby cities, and fewer deputies than 5 years ago. Now, this doesn't mean sales tax is not helping improve community safety. Cities are complicated. Crime trends are influenced by housing costs, economic pressures, staffing shortages, population growth, state policy, and countless other factors. Residents in Lancaster and Palmdale are already under enormous affordability pressure. The median home price in Los Angeles County is roughly $910,000, making additional tax burdens harder for many middle-income families to absorb. Sales tax also doesn't scale with income. Someone making $60,000 a year pays the same sales tax rate at the register as someone making $300,000. And the impact becomes even more noticeable on major purchases. In California, vehicle sales tax is tied to where the car is registered. That means someone buying a $50,000 car in Lancaster or Palmdale would pay roughly $5,600 in sales tax alone. In Beverly Hills, that same car would generate $4,800 in sales tax revenue, a difference of roughly $750 for the exact same vehicle. And voters approved many of these tax increases themselves, often through ballot measures promising to protect essential services like infrastructure and public safety. But many of those measures were structured as general taxes, meaning the money is not necessarily tied to specific outcomes, like hiring deputies or reducing crime. This all brings us back to the core question. If a city charges the highest sales tax rate in the country, what should residents expect in return? Should public safety measurably improve? Should staffing increase? Should crime decrease? How should success be measured? And if taxes continue rising year after year, should accountability rise too? Or is the relationship between taxes, safety, and city services far more complicated than voters were led to believe? Because when governments ask residents to pay the highest local taxes in America, people deserve to know exactly what they're getting in return.